everyone, it's Francine from Marianne. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to do a little story about a little tree with 5 apples hanging on it. So it's one that is a favorite of mine, and I know it's a favorite of some of you out there. So I'd like you to help me count the apples first today. You ready? We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little apples. So you have 5 little apples hanging on the tree. Teasing Mr. Slinky Worm. You can't eat me. No, you can't eat me. Along comes Mr. Slinky Worm, as quiet as could be. And he crunched that apple. Oh, dear me. Now, how many are left? Help me out. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we have 4 little apples hanging in a tree. Teasing Mr. Slinky Worm. You can't eat me. No, you can't eat me. When along comes Mr. Slinky Worm, as quiet as can be, and he crunched that apple. Oh, dear me. And now, how many? Let's see. 1, 2, 3. 3 little apples hanging in a tree, teasing Mr. Slinky Worm. What are they going to say? You can't eat me. No, you can't eat me. And along comes Mr. Slinky Worm. As quiet as can be. And crunch that apple. Oh, dear me. Now, how many are left? 2 little apples hanging in a tree, and they're teasing Mr. Slinky Worm. You can't eat me. No, you can't eat me. And along comes Mr. Slinky Worm. As quiet as can be. And he snapped that apple right out of the tree. Now, how many are left? Just 1. We have 1 little apple hanging in the tree. Teasing Mr. Slinky Worm. You can't eat me. No, you can't eat me. And along came Mr. Slinky Worm, very quiet as can be. And he crunched that apple. Oh, dear me. And now how many are in my tree? There aren't any. So there's no little apples hanging in the tree. Teasing Mr. Slinky Worm. You can't eat me. No, you can't eat me. And along came Mr. Slinky Worm. Here he comes, as full as can be. And he decided to take a nap under the old apple tree.
A little apple seed was planted in the ground. Down came the raindrops falling all around. Out came the big sun as bright can be, and the little apple seed turned into an apple tree.
There was once upon a time a little boy who was tired of playing with his toys, he was tired of his books, and he was tired of his puzzles. "What shall I do?" he asked his mother. And his mother, who always knew the fun things for little boys to do, said,
"Why not go and find a little red house with no doors and no windows, and a star inside?"
This really made the little boy wonder. Usually his mother had good ideas, but he thought this one was very strange. Which way shall I go? I don't know where to find the little red house with no doors and no windows.
"Go down the lane, past the farmer's house, and over the hill,"
said his mother.
"And then hurry back as soon as you can and tell me all about your journey."
So the little boy put on his hat, his jacket, and started out. He had not gone very far down the lane when he had come to a merry little girl dancing along the sunshine. Her cheeks were pink blossom petals, and she was singing like a robin. "Do you know where I shall find a little red house with no doors, no windows, and a star inside?" asked the little boy.
"Ask my father, the farmer. Perhaps he knows."
So the little boy went on until he came to the great brown barn where the farmer kept barrels of fat potatoes and a basket of yellow squash and brown pumpkins, golden pumpkins. The farmer himself stood in the doorway looking out over the green pasture and yellow grain fields. "Do you know where I shall find a red house with no doors, no windows, and a star inside?" he asked.
"I've lived a great many years and I've never saw one. But ask Granny, who lives at the foot of the hill. She knows how to make homemade cookies, taffy, and popcorn balls, and red mittens. Perhaps she can tell you."
So the little boy went on further until he came across Granny sitting on her rocker on the front porch. She had lots of wrinkles and a big smile on her sweet face. "Please, dear Granny," said the little boy, "where shall I find the red house with no doors, no windows, and a star inside?" The granny was knitting her red mittens when she had heard the little boy's question. She laughed so cheerily that the wool ball rolled off her lap and down the little stone path.
I should like to find that little house myself. It would be warm when the frosty night comes, and the starlight would be much prettier than a candle. But ask the wind, who blows about so much and listens at all the chimneys. Perhaps the wind can tell you.
So the little boy took off his cap politely to the granny and went on up the hill rather sadly. He wondered if his mother, who usually knew almost everything, perhaps made a mistake. The wind was coming down the hill as the little boy was climbing up. As they met, the wind turned around and went along, singing beside the little boy. It whistled in his ear and pushed him along, dropping a pretty leaf into his hands. "I wonder," thought the boy, after they had gone along together for a while, "if the wind could help me find the little red house with no doors, no windows, and a star inside." The wind cannot speak in our words, but it went singing ahead of the little boy until it came to an orchard. There it climbed up the apple tree and shook the branches. When the little boy caught up, there at his feet lay a big red apple. The little boy picked up the apple. It was as much as his two hands could hold. It was as red as the sun had been able to paint it, and it had no doors, no windows. Was there a star inside? The little boy called to the wind, "Thank you," and the wind whistled back.
"You're welcome."
The little boy hurried back down the lane with his big red apple in hand. When he reached his house, the little boy gave the apple to his mother. His mother said,
"You have found a house with no doors and no windows. But where's the star?"
His mother took the knife and cut the apple through the center. Oh, how wonderful! There inside the apple lay a star holding 5 brown seeds. "It is too wonderful to eat without looking at the star, isn't it?" the little boy said to his mother.
"Yes, indeed." We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Farmer Brown had 5 red apples hanging on her tree. Farmer Brown had 5 red apples hanging on her tree. She took one down and ate it hungrily. From your left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Farmer Brown has 4 red apples hanging on their tree. Farmer Brown has 4 red apples hanging on their tree. They took one down and ate it hungrily. From your left. 1, 2, 3. Farmer Brown has 3 red apples hanging on their tree. Farmer Brown has 3 red apples hanging on their tree. They took one down and ate it hungrily. From your left. 1, 2. Farmer Brown has 2 red apples hanging on their tree. Farmer Brown has 2 red apples hanging on their tree. They took one down and ate it hungrily. How many we have left? 1. Farmer Brown has 1 red apple hanging on their tree. Farmer Brown has 1 red apple hanging on their tree. They took it down and ate it hungrily. Farmer Brown has no red apples hanging on their tree. A little red apple hung high in a tree. I looked up at it, and it looked down at me. "Come down, please," I called, and what do you suppose? That little red apple landed right on my nose. We're going to do a little experiment today and see what happens to the apple when it is exposed to the air, which is a process called oxidation. So we're going to put in some vinegar, oil, lemon juice, and I have some milk. And in our measuring cup, I have some water. So I'm going to cut the apple, and I'm going to put a slice into each of these bags. and leave one out in the air to see what happens to it. Slice there. Okay. I'm gonna put a piece of apple in each bag, and then we'll add the liquid to it. You can see the apple currently that's very white. The flesh of the apple is very white, and the skin remains the same. Okay, so in each one, I'm going to add our liquid. So in this one, I'm going to add some water. 1/4 cup. The next one we'll do is the vinegar. Has anybody ever tried a pickled apple before? I know I have not. It'll be interesting on its own. With some lemon juice. And some oil. And some milk. Now leave these 2 pieces out so you can see what happens when they're just in the air. You can see them all here. The lemon juice, water, oil, milk, air, and vinegar. So we'll check back in a while and see what happens. So we have our apples a little while later. The one in the milk, see, hasn't changed too much. The one in the vinegar has gotten very brown. The one in the oil a little bit. The water, not so much. The lemon juice, not at all. And the ones that were out in the air, you can see a little bit turning brown a little. Compared to the vinegar one is the one that's had the most chemical reaction. We'll check back in a little while again. So this is our final clip of our apple oxidation experiment. You can see that the vinegar reacted strongly with the apple for a chemical reaction that made it turn very brown. The milk kept the apple pretty white. On most sides, the air one, it stopped oxidizing. Over time, it would do it more. The lemon juice kept it nice and fresh as well. And the water one, the oil one, also is starting to change colors.
So since this week's activity pack is all about apples, we thought it would be a great idea to make some applesauce. And what do you need to make applesauce? Apples, of course. So I picked some apples from my tree in my backyard, and there's still a few more apples up there, but I'm going to leave them there for now just to get a little bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these apples into my kitchen, and we're going to make some yummy, yummy applesauce. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen for some applesauce making. So I picked those apples off the tree in my yard, And for the applesauce that we're going to do today, I'm only going to use about 3 or 4 of the apples. So usually you would use a knife and you can cut your apple and peel it and core it and take out all the seeds. But today I have kind of a really cool machine, and it's called an apple machine. And it actually peels my apple and it will take the core out and it slices it. So I'm going to show you how it runs. So we're going to put the apple in here like that. You have to be very careful. So if you're doing this at home, you need an adult with you because this is very sharp. So this is the part of the machine that's going to slice the apple, and this little round part of the machine is what's going to core the apple. So as you can see, I'm turning the little knob and the apple's going to go on to, see what's happened? It's gone on to the peeler and it's peeling that apple. And it's really cool. It's nice and smooth, and see all the skin's coming off. So it's peeling it. I'm going to keep turning and keep turning until all the peel is off. And look at that, that's pretty cool. That's all the skinny peel from my apple. So next one I'm going to do, you have to be careful because it's sharp. So I'm taking all the apple slices off, and next I took the core off. So the core has all the seeds in it, and this is not the good part for the applesauce. But here's all the slices. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the slices in my little bowl, and I'm going to do another one. So what we did, move this back, and we're going to try and end. These are nice little apples from my tree. Now what I did do when I brought the apples in, I gave them a good wash, so that's very important. And I also washed my hands before I started. So we're going to peel one more. So watch it go. We're going to go around and around, this time a little faster. And watch how it peels that apple and the peeling comes off. Whoa! Oh, some of it's stinging a little bit because this apple's a little bigger. So I'm going to keep going around and around. And I'm going to take these off. Oh, the core came. See, look at the cores inside. So if I take, I'm going to put them in my little bowl. Take them out. Push that core through, and remember, that's not the good part because it has the seeds and the apple, or in the skins in it. Take that seed off. And there's some slices. So then what we're going to do next, I'm going to slice these up into smaller pieces. Make them really small. So you can take it, the whole slice that came off, and you can cut it into quarters. Cut it into 4 pieces. And I'm going to take another one, and I'm going to cut it this way and sideways. So I have 4 pieces. Let's see if I can get a whole one here. Well, that's 2 attached, but see the big circle? I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to cut it in half again. So I have 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm going to do, we're going to cut all these apples up, and the next step we're going to do is put them in a pot. Okay, so now we've peeled and we've sliced them and cored the apples, and the next step is we're going to put them in the pot. So I've cut them all up here, and they're all nice size pieces. We're going to put them in the pot. I'm just going to put them all in the pot like that. And a few of them have the skin on it, but that's okay. Put them all in the pot. And this was 4 little apples that we had from my tree. So the next thing we're going to do is I have a teaspoon. And just to make it taste a little yummier, we're going to put, actually I think I'm going to open this up. And we have some cinnamon. So I need 1 teaspoon of cinnamon that I'm going to, I'm going to sprinkle over my apples. Sprinkle them all over. Put that all over my apples. And you can add a little sugar to your apples, but I'm not going to do it today because I think these apples are sweet enough. So then the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to add some water. We'll start with a 1/2 cup first. So if you can see my apples in the pot, so I'm going to put, this was a 1/2 cup of water. Doesn't quite cover them. So I'm going to put a little more water in there. I'm going to stir it all up. Oh, it smells very yummy. And what we're going to do, turn the pot on. And it takes about 20 minutes. So what we're going to do, I'm going to stir it around so it's all covered in the cinnamon and the water. And then we're going to cover the pot. And we're going to let it cook and simmer for 20 minutes. So we'll see you back in a short little while and see how it's going. So our apples have been simmering for about 10 minutes. Oh, it smells really, really yummy. You can smell that cinnamon. And if you listen really closely, they are bubbling up again. So I think I might need a couple, maybe 5 or so more minutes. And then we'll take a look and see what happens. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes. Oh, that looks very yummy and smells delicious. I'm going to turn my oven off. Put my lid away. And the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to give it a little stir. Oh, and it smells very delicious. Still have some chunks in there. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take this little thing, and it's called a potato masher. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to mash the chunks of apple up. So we mash them all up, because some people like applesauce with some clumps in it, but some people like it nice and smooth. I'm going to mash it up. It's doing a pretty good job. I'll give it a little stir, mash it up a little more. And this is a great little activity, cooking activity that you can do at home. But you always remember that you need an adult with you because the oven is very, very hot. Now you could have taken this off of the stove and put it on the counter on like a hot plate and do it on there too. I think that's looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my spoon. I'm going to put it into my bowl. So it is a little lumpy, but you can squish it up a little more if you like. I'm just going to lift it up a bit so I can get some more in. There we go. Squish it up a little bit more. Smells delicious. So I put my applesauce into a little bowl. I think I might have that for dessert tonight. It needs to cool off because look, you can see the steam. It's very hot right now. But once it's cool, oh, I can't wait to taste it. So I hope you guys try it at home and enjoy, because it's a delicious little fall recipe.